5:30 this morning, David Chick made his daring ascent. Dressed as his 3-year-old daughter's favourite comic book hero, Spider-Man, he scaled this 180-foot crane unaided. He says he's been refused access to his daughter, despite a court order allowing him to see her.
Dave was aware that his daughter's mum was up to no good, well before she said to him, "If you want to start playing fucked up, then I really will." They were hardly words of a poor terrified abused mum, as she was claiming to the family court to be. The threat was in regards to any future relationship between Dave and his daughter Lauren, who was just 10 months old at the time. Now, because of the total failing of the family law system, father and daughter would be all but totally wiped from each other's lives for the best part of the following 5 years. Dave wasn't going to just sit around, he'd go his own route to get his little girl back. It was Father's Day, June 16, 2003, when Dave carried out his third crane top protest after not a glimpse of Lauren for 3 months, despite a court order to see each other weekly. A letter dated 5th of December 2001 arrived from Joe's solicitor stating that Marvin, Joe's brother, was only prepared to host one more contact on the 15th of December, Lauren's first birthday, as Dave's behaviour towards Marvin and Joe's parents had been less than acceptable. More Joe bullshit exposed by her own brother on the following video titled Lauren's First Birthday.
Is it right, Mark, that you don't want any more visits down there?
What do you think?
I know it's not ideal, but like, how they offended you or something?
No, he hasn't offended me. No, it's definitely not that. It's just for the fact that it's not always convenient. You know what I mean? It's not the
yeah, I understand that. But
not the best for to rely on. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it puts you out basically. Like you'd rather be doing what you've got to do, like there. Basically.
Like times like now, it's cool because we won't really be doing nothing. But in other times, what I'm saying is it's not good enough for you just to see Lauren when it suits us.
Yeah, that's not right. That will be sorted out eventually.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem to be around here, but we can't do it street here as well.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, but like, what I got from Dave Smith was that I've offended you, or
no, it wasn't that. It weren't.
What?
What?
What's up? What's up?
You what?
Oh. You know? Where are you going? Oh, what's that?
There were 20 red flags of Joe's bullshit in the first couple of months, and 100 plus more over the years, but family law couldn't care less. A few examples. In her emails to a friend, it was just a bit of gossip. Me and Dave are having a break. I don't love him anymore. But to the court it was like this. He was violent, abusive, on drugs, threatening to kill me. I'm terrified. Who's likely to be getting the true version? A close friend? Or the court you're seeking assistance from in wiping out the man who served his purpose, and who you don't want around anymore? Joe made a claim to the court that Dave was outside the house late one night, after allegedly being calling and threatening to kill her the same day, but not one call to the police this day or night, as proven by a log of her calls to them, exposed this for exactly what it was. There she was, claiming Dave threatened her outside the contact centre one day, when the contact centre guy Dave was with at the time confirmed there was no threat. This resulted in Joe not coming to the next 2 contacts by claiming she was too frightened following the threat that had never occurred.
Well, the man is still up the crane and the protest continues. I'm southeast of St Catherine's Dock. The crane itself, which you can see behind my shoulder, is over by Tower Bridge. And if we get the camera to move closer in, you can see to the left-hand side of your screens, that's the man's figure right at the end of the crane there. It's been a pretty effective and pretty dramatic protest.
Angry father David Chick unfurls banners protesting about his treatment a staggering 60 metres above Wapping. Below, police and emergency workers begged him to come down, but he's threatening to stay perched perilously on the crane for a week. Supporters say he's upset that he's being prevented from seeing his 2-year-old daughter, despite a court order allowing him access. Now, the police and a lot of the supporters here on the ground are now saying, well, look, he has made his point and he should come down to talk. The businesses locally on St Catherine's Way would also like an end to this because all the traffic has been stopped. But the signs aren't terribly good. He's been up there since Saturday and he's got enough water and supplies to last for several days.
This man has got a very powerful humanitarian cause. As I understand it, he cares about his daughter, from which he's been separated, and all power to him.
Dave ended this protest after assurances from police concerning his case involving his daughter. But all police had said was bullshit, which Dave should have known. He'd let them get in his head, but he'd never allow them to again.
How could one man single-handedly bring London to a standstill? That's the question the Met Police are facing tonight as David Chick, aka Spiderman, prepares to spend his 4th night up a 150-foot crane by Tower Bridge. He's protesting at what he calls the plight of fathers who are denied access to their children and has assured police by mobile phone that he won't endanger anyone.
They couldn't cope or deal with Dave's unique and highly visible protests, nor stop him legally, but they were desperate to stop him, and it didn't appear to matter how. What appeared to be a sinister plot appeared to be an opportunity for getting rid of Dave once and for all. Allegedly, it wouldn't take much to arrange. There was a chance it would work and had nothing to lose, with plenty to gain. But how could this happen in the likelihood of it never being found out about? This would have been virtually zero. It would have made any alleged impending prosecution go away. A prosecution that appeared to be of a civil nature and not a criminal matter, which in theory would still have had a minimal chance of having Dave convicted. If a plot was a conspiracy to have Dave jump from the top of the crane, it would have made sure that Dave wouldn't have been a thorn in their side he had previously become. Someone with access to the PNC, Police National Computer Database. For instance, the police or above could have then given details to the Sun. Details of a conviction Dave received in 1987 for having consensual sex with another adult in public. This is why Dave believes there was a plot against him and if successful, would be rid of the thorn in someone's side. The Sun ran a story of a man protesting for a good cause, and then they tried to bring him down with a conviction of 2 adults having consensual sex in public from way back in 1987, which at the time of print, the story should never have made print. This was a damaging and most shaming story that served no lawful purpose for any man whilst at the top of a 200-foot crane. The offence was decriminalised in 2012. This was part of why Dave, Spiderman Chick, believes there was a plot against him. This could now point conspiracy towards the Sun and a third party believed to be the police for presenting a story as if it had been published when it hadn't been until a day after. This information is what Dave would like to share with you, the viewer, for your reference. For the story to have any chance of succeeding, the story needed to be put into print by around 2:30 PM on the 5th. They would have got Mike Sullivan, the Sun's senior crime editor, to print the piece and mock it up in good time for the Sun this day. A story that Dave and his guy on the ground would have believed that the story had just been printed. It turned out the story was not printed on the 5th, it was actually printed on the 6th. So why was it presented to Dave's guy on the ground as if it had already been published when it hadn't? One thing they couldn't have foreseen was Dave's walkie-talkie batteries dying around lunchtime on the 5th, while the plan appeared to be that Dave was to hear about the story via his walkie-talkie. It was 3 PM when PC's McAllister and Bush delivered 4 AA batteries to Dave on top of the crane. Dave confirmed this from their police statements. As the battery delivery was taking place, Dave said the police showed Dave's guy on the ground who had Dave's other walkie-talkie a story the Sun newspaper then believed to have already been published, in the hope that he would inform Dave via his radio of the story, and with the threat of arrest by the police with the same charges as Dave for conspiring in Dave's crane top protest, in order to try and persuade him to tell Dave about the story. So he did. For me, this would raise a question. Why would anybody want to inform a man at the top of a crane about a news story headline stating, "Spider-Man is a pervert"? It was only when Dave ended his crane top protest that the image of Dave's arrest was then placed in the Sun newspaper to go with the news article that was given to Dave's guy on the ground a day earlier. This is what the mainstream media are known to do. in order to create a distraction by attempting to turn a hero fighting for children and fathers' rights into something else. Just adding together the events by the filth and gutter press following the opening up of all roads on the eve of the 4th. Conviction leaked by filth, run of the mill. Untrue damaging piece it was twisted into by gutter press, run of the mill. Put into print a day early by gutter press, sinister. Delivering of the batteries by filth, sinister. Threat to get Dave's guy to relay him the story by filth, sinister. Efforts to have Dave remanded by filth, sinister. This appeared to look more and more sinister by the minute, while not needing a degree to work out what this was all about. All this to a guy doing no wrong, having a lawful, peaceful humanitarian protest for all fathers being denied or having limited access to their own flesh and blood children. By the actions of raising public awareness from heartfelt beliefs that evil actions of others behind the closed doors of secret family law courts and their system. All this, and near broken with all that was being done to both his daughter and himself, Dave said it had been a mad 6 days with the tactics deployed, the isolation, the cold, and having hardly eaten or slept. He was dirty and fatigued. But he'd got through it and was happy with all that he'd done. Then 10 minutes before he was due to descend, the lowest of blows arrived, and in a split second, he went from feeling good to feeling devastated. He suddenly realised what millions were now reading about him. Hearing it at ground level couldn't have done Dave much damage, but hearing something like this when you're 200 foot or so in the air could have been just enough to break him mentally and make him do something rash, as those who appear to have organised it would have well known.
Tower Bridge and roads nearby were cordoned off as police brought in trained negotiators to bring the man down. Until they manage this, the bridge will remain closed and there'll be severe delays.
Extraordinary attempts of a desperate man.
Mainstream media never once mentioned the real issue that Dave was protesting over, which was the secret family law system, keeping it all secret, just like it is. This was clear to see from certain messages on his banners that mentioned the emotional abuse this system was causing to his daughter. According to the media, Dave's protest was only about fathers' rights and contact issues. So much bullshit, twisting and covering up. If only the media and police could tell the truth. It was because Dave was shouting from the rooftops, multiplied by about 5, about an issue the state wants no one to hear or know about, that such lengths were gone to try and permanently silence him. One of Dave's banners read, "Joanna Gowans, the She-Devil, Cleaning Co. Chesington, and Incompetent Judge Critchlow, reading Guildford, stop abusing my child and I." The following news report appears to show the police have a different response, which appears in contradiction to previous traffic management decisions. But when police change their tactics like this, one can't help but wonder if the police really do know what it is they are doing.
Just at about 8 o'clock last night, they decided that they didn't need the cordon after all, and they took it down. That did open up the question of whether there'd been some sort of political persuasion being done. The police have denied that, and this was their response today.
I'm perfectly happy with the operation initially. Once I decided that conditions had changed, we reopened. We have to take note of the health and safety considerations for the public and the police, and it was a successful operation overall. But we will review it. We are very concerned about congestion for Londoners. We don't want people stuck in traffic jams, and anything we can do to minimise that in the future, we'll do.
Sensible precautions or overreaction? The answer depends on who you talk to. The police say they have no option but to shut down the area on safety grounds, but drivers stuck in traffic jams and forced to take lengthy diversions aren't convinced.
If Tower Bridge was shut down on safety grounds, then why would the police need to extend the safety cordon, which was already in place?
On the ground, an enormous police cordon is in place, blocking access to the bridge and the junction by the Tower of London, one of the main arteries into the city. The cordon was extended yesterday after police claimed high winds could swivel the crane dangerously. But this morning, with only the lightest of breezes, the area was still closed off.
A much truer version from the Commissioner based on facts and evidence would have sounded something like this. I couldn't care less about the negligent operation initially. When I decided that the conditions had changed from blowing a gale to a dead calm, irrespective of the fact it only took me 24 hours to reopen, when in actual fact, we reopened as soon as we heard that Dave was nearing the end of his protest. I choose if and when to take notice of health and safety considerations for both the public and police. And it's irrelevant that it was a disastrous operation overall. We won't review it. We don't give two shits about congestion for Londoners, nor care about people stuck in traffic jams. Anything we can do to maximise that in the future, we'll do it. It's the government who we serve and protect, not the public. Regarding the Commissioner's successful Operation Overall spiel, documents and video evidence prove virtually everything he stated here was bullshit. Stevens would have overseen and okayed everything that occurred during the protest, and Sullivan would have known what it was all about when he was either asked or told to put the story in print by lunchtime on the 5th, when it was officially to be published on the 6th. So Sir John Stevens and the son's Mike Sullivan are the two that Dave can name who were both obviously involved in the plot. Close all roads, a tactic to force Dave down, failed. Opening all roads while Dave was still up the crane after the police claimed they couldn't open the roads, deemed inept policing. Everything about the leaked conviction and attempt to murder Dave failed. Holding up a couple of million Londoners. The police did that by choosing to close the roads. Costing the economy tens of millions of pounds, a police decision. Police attempting to have Dave remanded in custody failed. The malicious prosecution against Dave failed. Following this trial, Dave was maliciously prosecuted another 2 times over the next 4 months, both also concluding in not guilty verdicts.
He dressed up as Spider-Man and climbed the London Eye, closing it for a whole day. He stopped up to 15,000 people going on the tourist attraction. But today, Fathers' Rights campaigner David Chick from West Sussex walked free from court after being cleared by a jury of causing a public nuisance. As Simon Jones reports, this wasn't the first time David Chick climbed high to make his voice heard.
He dressed as Spider-Man because he said every father is a superhero to their children, but David Chick felt compelled to scale the 450-foot high wheel because he believed he was being deprived of the chance of being a superhero to his daughter. He told the court he spent 18 hours up there because he hadn't been allowed to see his daughter for 18 months.
I took that drastic action because what's happened to me and my daughter is so extreme, so basically I respond with an extreme protest, because my case, you won't find a more extreme case of the system basically doing what is not in the child's best interests.
The prosecution called his behaviour unreasonable, disproportionate, preventing people enjoying the Eye, but the jury didn't agree. The jury took just half an hour to clear David Chick, but this was a campaigner who knew exactly what he was doing. Before he even climbed the Eye, he'd written a statement which he gave to police when he was arrested as he came down from the Eye, asserting that what he did was in accordance with his human rights. And he'd done it before. He'd spent 6 days up a crane near Tower Bridge, causing traffic chaos, but cleared by a jury of causing a public nuisance, like at the Eye.
Yes, I think it was a very fair result. I think when the jury began to understand what the event was all about, the inconvenience for a short while, maybe one day to the public, they missed their ride on the London Eye, but he's a father, very depressed, or upset rather, might be a better word.
But isn't such dangerous protest setting a bad example to the children he's campaigning for?
Yeah, but it's not just about me. I'm doing my protests on behalf of basically the whole country.
But the worry for the police now is 2 major stunts, no convictions. Copycat protests could follow, but protests that clearly enjoy a degree of public support. Simon Jones, BBC South Today, in a London Crown Court.
Expert organisation involved in Dave and Lauren's case wrote, "The child would be best placed with the father if the mothers maliciously, deliberately and purposefully created a web of lies to create a situation in which Mr. Chick has been deliberately excluded from Lauren's life. Then the court may conclude that this is tantamount to very serious emotional abuse, which would warrant a child's removal and placement with the father." This is exactly what happened and was clear to see within the first month and throughout. It was family law's complete failings that resulted in the years of abuse, but this expert doesn't mention anything about family law's very serious emotional abuse, only the mothers. No accountability, hardly anyone's aware of the failings and abuse being done to so many in this system. Highly likely the worst child abuse cover-up scandal of modern times. But how will anyone ever know or find out with the veil of secrecy to hide it all? They claim secrecy is to protect the children, didn't protect Lauren, and totally failed her for 4.5 years. How many thousands of other children have been subjected to very serious emotional abuse over the decades because of family law's failings? And how many more will be over future decades? Family law, the epicentre of UK child abuse. The secrecy is to hide the evil being done to our children. Dave asked Alan, the dad of Joe's other child, how come he split up with her so soon after the birth. Alan was unaware that Dave was recording and had no reason to lie.
As it was brought in, July, you just break any fucking come overnight is how it all come about.
What, you overnight?
Yeah.
What pulled out?
Fucking kids just been up a gay case.
The first day Dave and Lauren were to see each other outside of a contact centre in 3.5 years, there was more evidence Joe was still playing really fucked up, frightening Lauren, that Dave was going to run away with her. On top of all the nasty daddy shit, Joe had fed her over the years. This is another recording of Dave's ex-partner's conduct.
Say what I told you last time. What did you say about running away with you? Why did you say that? Your mummy said what?
No, this is funny, bro.
The BBC paedophile statue, commissioned and sculpted by child abusers. A grown man with a naked child holding an instrument that you blow? Really? Noose all pedos and those who protect them. The trial date is yet to be set, and it's highly likely they will try and make an example of Dave. Note the massive supportive comments for Dave's latest protest against the child abusers in 2022. The first time Dave infiltrated the police was because of serious shit they'd done to him in 1994, was in 1995 when he had a relationship with policewoman Lucy Garrett. It wasn't long before PC Garrett suggested Dave commit a crime of entrapment for the police. He went along with it in the hope of getting some evidence for what they were doing to himself, which they did. The following audio clips are from the conversation between Dave and PC Lucy Garrett after he was arrested. Dave sends his apologies and would like to point out that the audio recordings are now 27 years old, and although poor in quality, he should still be able to make most of them out.
What, Lucy? Why? Yeah, but Luke, why are you still sort of speaking to me? I thought we agreed on it all, you know? Because I'm not allowed to speak to you, because you're both. Yeah, but I thought you might have rang me and said thanks for keeping you. Hey? Yeah, but I kept you out of it like we agreed, so what? Yeah, but you're not on the bail condition anymore. You are? You're the conditions are that this situation is down though. Yeah. You don't ring me, and if you do, then they're going to lock you up. And if they find out you've made this phone call, because they've cut my phone. That's why I was lock you. They come round every so often and check the numbers. Yeah, but you could ring me from somewhere else. You know, because I ain't heard from you, I thought, I don't know, whether you set me up or what. I'm there. Yeah. know, what's sort of going on then? Are we still sort of seeing each other or what? It was your idea in the first place, so it ain't all my fault, is it? Eh? You've just got one inspector after you, I've got them all after me, but what the fuck for, Luce, you know? What have I ever done big time? Nothing.
Oh, so they just think you're mental up there. You're mental.
Well, I could...
Because I want to be in the police. They fucking ain't you. So what have you really got, you know?
Well, yeah, I can appreciate that, but, you know, I just thought I might have sort of heard from you, like, you know, I haven't let you down, have I? It wasn't my idea, I haven't let you down at all.
I think, well, I just like to look at the time, you know?
Well, yeah, but, you know, I'm sat here, with all them after me, you sort of not getting in contact. What am I thinking? My head's fucked, you know? Plus all what went on before last year and all that, the stitch up. What do you think's been going through my head? What do you think's been going through my head?
So what they done to you then? Because they fucking turned up at work, told me I was arrested David Chick.
No,
You wore it was mine.
Eh?
You wore my jacket up there, didn't you? And they said that we hadn't just find the jacket he wore. You know it's a dark jacket and it's got like a symbol on it. So I had to say, shit, I've got one of them at home. I had to tell them, because if they come to my house and search my place without me being there, we would have seen it hanging on the plate because you wore mine. But then when I took it up there for them to look at it, they said, oh no, that's not the one. It's too small. Because mate, that's your side, hide it on you. Said, oh no, it's too small in the arms. But it was for you anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's fucking cost it off. They just said, please check the house and kill it, because it's locked on, you can't find it.
Yeah, but they come in here and search your soul, Gaff. You know, my mum was in, she don't fucking need that sort of shit.
They're just gunning for you, Dave, and that's it. You're just easy to just get out of the fucking area because you're being watched and you know, so...
Luce, what did I tell you from day one about them? Do you believe exactly what I said
Yeah,
about
but they obviously don't want you to come in because I've never seen them treat anybody else like this before.
Well, no, I know that. I told you that. You didn't really believe me, did
No,
you?
I didn't, because when I've been out there and they've arrested people, there's never given this much much grief.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's like, you're off out of it, moving right away. You never get a break.
No, I know that. They said they noticed me using them the next sort of day, but they didn't bother coming around for fucking 5 days later. It's full of shit if she's done through. Oh, I don't know, you know. What did I tell you from day one about them fucking being on to me big time, yeah? You believe me now, yeah?
No, do you think I would have bothered? I wouldn't have bothered, would I? I would have just, you know, forget about it, you know. I didn't realise I was that. They definitely don't like you, though. I don't know about it.
Yeah, I know that. I've been telling you it, I've been telling my solicitors it, everybody. Eh?
Right from the one from the top.
Yeah, and you kept on about me, about keeping out of trouble, and then you go and put me in the trouble.
Well, I wasn't expecting to fucking blow up like this.
The following news headline was how the local paper reported on the recording. Police conspiracy claim, disturbing tape. Mr. Elkins produced an audio cassette as evidence of the conspiracy against Chick. However, the tape was not played to the magistrate. Mr. Elkins said, "I am disturbed by the contents of this conversation with one of the witnesses. It contains admissions to the fact it was her idea." But prosecuting Mark Bishop said, "The CPS have no evidence of this version of events. I must refute the involvement of anybody else in this offence." Shafted by a corrupt system after laying it all on a plate for a solicitor who didn't even get the tape heard, he was obviously corrupt too. Following Dave's protests in 2003 and 2004, it was as if the police had been told to lay off him now, unless they had a legitimate reason against him. They'd leave it for now, but they'd be back. It was November 2018 when they decided to carry out their revenge best served cold for what went on all those years ago. Following numerous unlawful stops and arrests, Dave being falsely charged with assaulting police which ended with no case to answer at trial, and being assaulted with fireworks being thrown at him, all in the space of a week, Dave would be arrested again on a Friday evening for a minor public order allegation. A few hours to charge and/or bail is all it should have taken, but no, they had other plans for Dave. 20 hours later, they told Dave he was being held until his appearance in court on the Monday. They knew Dave would kick off in the cells with them taking the piss like this, and as soon as he did, the police called in the White Coat Brigade to get Dave sectioned. Nothing from them for the previous 14 years, and 26 years after Dave's only previous sectioning, then this just a couple of weeks prior to 1512, which was Lauren's 18th birthday that Dave would no longer be able to be with her for. It was no coincidence, and all so easy for the sick fucks to do. The second time Dave infiltrated the police and obtained the following recording was in 2019. The following is part of a conversation with Susan Lydon, the other police officer Dave had a relationship with. Note the tone of her voice as she's being harassed by the police to do shit for Dave, and her referring to the 2018 sectioning that she knew as well as Dave that he should never have been subjected to. The statement, hasn't taken any medication since January, related to the fact that in January, Dave had no choice but to take their medication as it would be given to him by injection if he refused, and her "he didn't need it" comment was in relation to him not needing it as he wasn't ill, and because the sectioning was all done in the latest attempt to break Dave by denying him from being able to be with Lauren for her big milestone birthday.
Utilising me, you to nick him.
So who asked you to do it, do you know? You've got a name on it?
No, I don't. No, on my hand on my heart,
right.
I don't.
Right.
They went, well, he's not taking his medication. I said, he hasn't taken his medication since he...
Only on the medication?
I said, I'm not doing that. Well, we need to, for David's own security, we need to make sure he's okay. I went, well, I don't know where he is. I said, I think he's driving around.
For my own security? See, I've told you this sort of stuff before, that they, you know, they're even putting pressure on you to try and fuck me over now, yeah?
Mm.
Yeah. But you don't know who said it or anything?
No, I don't. Because they've asked. I said, so, okay. This was the other day. I was just walking into work yesterday.
Right.
And the phone, and they said, blah, 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 blah. I went, so, who would I, refer to? Well, we can't give that information. I said, so, okay. How can I sort of, make any referral about anything? About anything? Well, what vehicles is he driving around in? I went, honest. So I think he's driving around in a white van now. You know the VRM? I went, no, I don't. Because he used to have a Mercedes, a BMW. I don't think he is now. Well, do you know, I went, no, I said, do you know what? I said, I'm just going to fucking work. And I said like that.
Mm.
I said, I don't know his vehicle registration. You're the police. Why the fuck aren't you finding that out? And why should I be doing this? I said, all I'm doing is going into work now and I'm getting a bit pissed off about this. Right. You just give me 20 minutes talking on the phone, yeah? Right. I'm getting really pissed off about this. I'm not interested. All I'm saying is leave me alone. Right. This is what I said.
Right.
Huh? I said, what are you? I said, you're a civilian? Yes, I said, what's your name again? Blah, 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 blah. I went, right, do you know what? I'm really not interested here.
Both conversations with policewoman partners exposing various crimes being done to Dave by the police, and 24 years apart.
I said, please, you've upset my working day already. You obviously can't do your job. You can't find him. I said, he's scooting around. Being honest.
Right.
It's down to you, isn't it?
Down to them, you mean, or down to me?
No, sorry. Down to you, down to them.
Right, to find me.
Yeah.
But I haven't done any. I haven't done anything. But they're trying to get you to say I've done something bad.
I said, well, we feel that he needs to have his medication. I said, I've told you, he has no medication since January, which is 7 months on. He didn't need it. But, seriously, I said, it's down to you, your job. I am not working for the police.
Yeah, but it's not even their job, is it? I haven't done anything wrong. They're fucking basically harassing me now again, like,
No, they're trying to find a reason. And they want to utilise me. They want me to go to court. For, I've had about 3 or 4 different people, divisions, to say that you're basically making my life.
They're trying to get you to say I'm making your life.
Yeah, I went, I'm not doing it. I said, I'm sorry. I've told David, which is fair. I said, David, you've got your property now. That's the end of it. Whatever happens between you and me at the end of that is fair enough, yeah? But they want to utilise me.
To fuck me over?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not doing that, David.
Thank you.
Whatever you think of me, I would never do that. Yeah?
Yeah.
I went, no.
Right. But now do you get the picture of what I've had for fucking decades?
Yes, I do.
You know what they're fucking like?
Yes, I do.